Good evening.
Apologies for the delay. Sorry, Richie. We were.
Everything okay?
What?
Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's fine. Also, no, there were various things, including Marav being delayed, but Marav has now been completed. It's very, very impressive. You're joining from there. It's a bit late there, but
it is a bit late.
If you fall asleep, we won't hold it against you.
Given that I missed a night's sleep on Motzei Shabbos, please be understanding.
What?
I missed a night's sleep on Motzei Shabbos with the overnight flight, so I haven't brought up.
Yeah,
yet.
exactly. It takes about a week to catch up from that.
Yeah.
Thank you so. Yeah. Okay. Great. Thank you for taking that from the comments. So
Pleasure.
very, very grateful. All right. Okay, we are good. Okay, is everyone ready?
Yes.
Okay, good. Enjoy the donuts. Martin, we appreciate the donuts in honor of Hanukkah. Unfortunately, we can't transfer donuts via Zoom yet. In Israel. Yeah. Okay. So so we are going. So okay. So the sugya we're up to. It's a new sugya. It's a new sugya. I'd love to say that we finish it, but I think it's unlikely because it's not so short. It's a classic, one of the classic sugyas of Cheskes Habatim. It's the sugya of Naschod Rabbi Abba. That's what it's known as in the Yeshiva Shavelt. Naschod Rabbi Abba. Naschod is an ingot, which is like a piece of metal. That's what Naschod is, but we'll see exactly what's going on here. Right, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines up from the bottom of Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis. Someone said to his friend, "My boyas b'hai ara, what are you doing inside the land? What are you doing inside this land?" Right, same thing as we've had many, many times. The same opening to all these cases, pretty much. He comes along. It's a case of Toin v'nitzan. You've got a taina against you. What's my taina? My taina is what are you doing in my land? He says to him, I bought it from you. And I used 3, and I've been in the land for 3 years. Exactly, been in the land for 3 years. And that's okay, so fine. So he's got to bring proof, right? I see he brought 1 aid that he had used it for 3 years. Now, 1 aid is not great. It's not great, right? It's not going to get you very far, it would seem. Because at the end of the day, you need 2 aidim. And therefore, the question is, what do we do now? On the one hand, he's claiming he's got the taina. The taina is I bought it from you. Okay, fine. The taina needs also, and he says 3 years chazaka. 3 years chazaka needs a proof. I don't have a proof. I've got 1 aid that supports me. So the question is, what are you going to do with this case? So the Gemora says, "Sov Rabbanon kamid Abai lemeima." The Rabbanon in front of Abai thought to say, "Hainu naschod Rabbi Abba." This case is comparable to the case of naschod Rabbi Abba. So in other words, we're going to try and solve this case, the psak. With this case, we're going to try and derive from the case of Naschod Rabbi Abba. And now we're going to see what that case is. You with me? Right. There was a certain person who snatched a metal, piece of precious metal or whatever it was, from his friend. So also the Kami Rabbi Ami came in front of Rabbi Ami. Probably was his friend. He came in front of Rabbi Ami. Ohava Yosef, Rabbi Abba, Kame, and Rabbi Abba was sitting in front of him. I see Chad Sado. The michtav chot fominei. So he bought 1 aid that he had snatched it from him. Right, but 1 aid, that's what he's got. One aid, right? So the scenario is one person snatches something from someone else. He comes in front of Rabbi Ami to get it back, effectively. He comes to bring him to Beis Din. Rabbi Abba's sitting there as well. We'll come back to Rabbi Abba in a minute. And why we mention Rabbi Abba, you'll see. This guy brought 1 aid that the guy had snatched it. Omalei, he said to him, "Yes, it's true. I understand. I support the aid in chotfi, but the chotfi, it's true. I did snatch it, but it's mine. I snatched it, but because it's mine, because I own it." Right? So he didn't disagree with the aid. There's 1 aid, but he disagreed, supported him, but he said it's mine. Omar Rabbi Ami. Rabbi Ami said, "How are the judges, the dayonim, going to judge this case? What on earth are we going to do with this case? What's the problem? The problem is we seem to be snookered in every direction. Whatever we try and paskin in this case, we can't paskin that way. Okay? Why? Lishalem, top of the next summit, right? lishalem, to pay, leikatre sadi. He doesn't tuedim. So we can't make him pay. You can't say, well, he's agreed that he snatched it. He says, he's agreed he snatched it, right? You can't do that. You can't say, if snatched it, it's mine. If I take something from yours, if I take something from you, from your possession, and you come along and say, and it's clear that I've done that, and I've admitted it, I've taken it from your house, and you come along and say, can I have it back? I can't say it's mine. You understand? We say, Hamed Momon al Cheskoso. You always go after the Chazaka. You understand? If I have something in my possession, no one knew it was in my possession, and I revealed it's mine, and I've got something in my house, and you come along and say it's yours, prove it, right? But if it's known, a known fact, that it was taken by me from your house, and I admit that, I say I took it from your house, right? Then unless I've got evidence that it's mine, right? Then then surely I should have to pay back. The problem is, yeah. No, Martin, you look confused. Huh? You agree?
And
Lishalem. The first option possibly here, yeah. Again, we have a scenario where one person, the facts are as follows: Ruvain took something, right, from Shimon, a piece of precious metal worth a lot of money. Took it from Shimon, right? That's clear, okay? Shimon brings one aid that Ruvain has done that, and Ruvain admits it. Ruvain agrees.
He stole it.
Yeah, he doesn't. He says I took it, but Ruvain says I took it because it was mine. Okay, so everyone agrees on the facts. It's definitely clear. Yeah, it's definitely clear that this piece of metal has transferred from Shimon to Ruvain. No one's disputing that, right? No one's disputing that. What's the dispute? Yeah, Ruvain says I took it because it was mine, and Shimon says no, you didn't. It's mine, right? So the Gemora says, let's think of the three possible things we can do here. Number one is we can tell him to pay it back. The problem is the Gemara, Leika Trei Sadi. There's no two Adim. There's no two Adim that he snatched it.
No, but there is.
Why? And?
So why then start facing?
He can't be the guy.
No, he's not an aid. He's definitely not an aid.
Okay, but
He's Moida.
Why can't? What? We need to aid him to say that something.
You need to aid him. So to say that what?
He admits that it happened.
He admits that what happened. What did he say?
He admits that he took it from me.
In Chotfi, v'didi Chotfi. But it's mine. That's why I took it. So he doesn't admit that he stole it. It is because since there isn't two Adim against it, he's got a migo. Migo, he could have said that I didn't take it because he's not challenged by two Adim. There's only one aid. So he could have just said I never took it. It was always mine. And there'd only be one aid standing up against him. So therefore, he should be believed to say that I did take it, but it was mine.
Okay. Is this the only issue? Is this any barrier to the argument, or is there something? Is there another reason?
Well, we've only done one strand of the first three possibilities. The first possibility, yeah. The first possibility is let's make Ruvain pay. Let him pay it back. Let him give it back. In other words, the Shalom, let him pay it back.
But we're basically he did it on RP Edachor, not two.
No. Well, no, that's what we're saying. We're saying, yeah, that's why it doesn't work. We'll go. We'll see. Right, at the moment, we'll see. Look, the one's going to build it up. So the moment, Lei Kutrei Sad, you can't make him pay back because it isn't two Adim, right? There isn't two Adim to make him pay. And therefore, because there isn't two Adim, he should have a classic migo. And the migo would be, since I could have said that I didn't take it, and I would have been believed, and I would have kept it because no two Adim against me. So believe me when I said that I took it, but it's mine. So let's go to the opposite direction then. Okay, fine, lift it. Let's potter him. Let's let him keep it. Great. Let him keep it. It's got migo, very nice. Let him keep the piece of metal. Says more, no. It's got, well, there is one aid against you. There is one aid against it, right? And the point is that his migo is fundamentally flawed. What was his migo? Migo, he could have said, I never took it. Let me ask you a question. What happens if one aid says you took something and you challenge the aid and says, you say, no, I didn't? What's the halacha? Sure. You got to make a sure. And therefore, you can't. This migo is not watertight. This migo is leaking everywhere. What is migo? Believe me that it's true what I'm saying, that it's really mine. Migo, I could have said that I never took it. 1 second. Had you said you never took it, you'd have to make a sure. So that's not a good migo, because you wouldn't say that, because you wouldn't want to make a sure. You understand? The whole omdus of migo always is, If I was lying, I would have said a better lie than if I'm telling the truth. But I wouldn't say the other lie. I wouldn't say the better lie. I couldn't say yeah, I couldn't say that I never took it, because then I would have had to make a shvur. So if I was a liar, you understand? If I was a liar, I'm not going to make a shvur, right? So it's not like that. And therefore, you can't exempt him either, because it goes chadsados. Okay, so the third option sounds brilliant. Lishtaba, great. Let him make a shvur. Okay, so fine. He's got an aid against him. We said that his migay is no good because he could never say that I didn't take it. So great. So he's got an aid. So let him make a shvur to destroy the witness, the single aid. Because one aid can always be mechayev a shvur. That's the halacha. One aid is mechayev a shvur. Okay, so let him make a shvur. You understand? That's how we'll solve the case. How is the case? We will say to Ruvain, because you've got an aid disagreeing with you, make a shvur that it's yours, and everyone is happy. Because that's halacha. Aid is kom l'shvur, right? It says. We learn it from a pasuk. What's it called? Leyokom edechot beish. L'chol oven l'chol chatos, l'chol oven hu d'lo kom, right? Avol komu l'shvur. He's not able to make chayav mammon, but he can make a shvur. But there's a problem which should have occurred to every one of you. Ha'amar michtav chotfa. He said that he snatched it. He said that he took it. And since he said he snatched it, havaleke gazlan. Wait, Jeremy, let's understand it first. Since he said he snatched it, havaleke gazlan. Since he said he snatched it, he's like a gazlan. And therefore, he is disqualified from making a shvur. Because he's automatically messed up from making a shvur, right? He's like a gazlan in the sense. Okay, we'll have to see the Rashbam. The Rashbam goes through this. It's a bit confusing why it says he's like a gazlan. Okay, but the fundamental point is, that he cannot make a shvur. He cannot make a shvur that he didn't take it because he said he did take it. So the only other alternative is, you might say, let him make a shvur that it's his own. But that's not the shvur that Eid Echad can ever be mechayev. An Eid Echad is only mechayev a shvur to contradict, what the Eid is coming to testify about. That's the shvur an Eid can be mechayev, a single Eid. In other words, an Eid comes along and says, you took this. So Toras says, the Eid can't make you pay, but the Eid can make you make a shvur that it's not true. You make a shvur that you did not take it, right? That's the only shvur that an Eid can make you make. He can't make that shvur because he said I did take it. So in the context of this shvur, he's disqualified from making a shvur. Yeah, he's like a gazlan. He's a. That's the thing. He's as possible. He's as possible as a gazlan.
What kind of gazlan?
Yeah, he's saying it is. Huh? A gazlan is disqualified from making a shvur because he's possible, because he's not believed. He's not possible. Yeah, it's not so much Adus. It's not so much Adus, right? Yeah, he's saying it's his. That's exactly what he's doing.
From his point of view, there's no gazlan. He can't be gazlan.
No, but we can't believe him. You see, if he said, right, okay, if he says that, okay, a gazlan is possible for sure, okay, this chap has the end result with this guy is the same as a gazlan. A gazlan cannot make any shvur because he's not believed, he's a gazlan, right? This guy has the same status as a gazlan. Why? Because he is effectively disqualified from all shvuos. He cannot make the shvur, which the aid could make him make, which is, you didn't take it, they didn't take it. He can't make that shvur because he admits that he did. So obviously he can't make that shvur because that would contradict what he said. He doesn't want to make that shvur anyway. He didn't say it. He can't make that shvur, right? Yeah. So the only other possible shvur he could make, he also can't make because no aid can mechayev that shvur. He can't make a shvur saying it was mine. In chotzi, this thing that he said, that shvur is not a possible option for him.
Why not?
Because that's not the aid is not mechayev that shvur.
Not mechayev.
You can't make it. It's not an option. It's not an option. Again, with a shvur, The only options available, the only thing an aid does, yeah, exactly, is to contradict the aid. The aid says you're chayiv something, and he's only one aid, so you have to make sure that it's not true. But you can't make that sure here. So therefore, you're effectively disqualified from making sure. Because you can't make that sure, you're the same as a gazlan. You're no better than a gazlan. That's the simple explanation to what the Rosh Hashanah does in the Gemora. It's a little bit confusing, that thing about the gazlan. But the point is very simple, right? Rabbi Ami says this phrase, which is a classic phrase, hey, can I do on a dina? We're stuck. We can't do anything here because we have a guy, Reuven took something from Shimon, and everyone agrees to those facts. There's one aid that says he did, and he admits that he did. That's true. They have a debate and disagreement as to whether or not it belongs to Reuven or Shimon, right? But we have no options because Reuven we can't be mechayev him to pay because into Aiden. We can't pater him because there is one aid. So therefore, that's not, you can't just exempt him. You can't just say, "I'll get off scot-free," because that one aid destroys his migoy. He can't, the migoy, I could have said, I didn't take it.
So
You never make that migoy. That migoy is not right. That migoy is not true because the migoy is that you would never say that because you've got an aid who contradicts you and you have to make a shua if you said that. If you said it, one second, if you said it, you have to make a shua, right? You understand? That's no good. Well, am I? Make a shua. Great. Make a shua. You can't make a shua because the only possible option for shua for you is to contradict the aid, which is, I never took it, but you said you did take it. So you're stuck. All three ways you're stuck. And that's Rabbi Ami's point. Yeah, what was that, Jeremy? You understood that?
My question is,
Yeah.
if you remember from quite a few shows earlier on in the series, we had a debate about whether 2 Eidim or Eid Echad was sufficient to be able to give Eidos. Because normally you go on the basis of 2.
Always need to.
So, okay, how are you validating a matzah where one comes along the same?
No, this is the Rosh Hashanah will explain this. This is a special din in the Torah, right? One aid is not believed to be mechayev momen, be motzi momen. One aid is not good enough. However, one aid can be mechayev shvur. It's a din in the Torah.
So
It means a positive apostle. It's not from apostle. Yeah, it's a product from apostle. So separate, right? Now, Omar, before we see the Rashbam, just so we get a sense of the sugya, let's just see what Rabbi Abba's respond. Because the sugya is called Naschad Rabbi Abba, because Rabbi Abba is the one who solves it. Omale Rabbi Abba said to him, that's why I mentioned Rabbi Abba before. Rabbi Abba was sitting there and he was listening to Rabbi Ami give his reasoning and backwards and forwards, and yeah. Omale Rabbi Abba, Havi Mechuyev Shua, She'eino Yochel Lishova. So the din is that anyone who's mechuyev to make a shua, because he is mechuyev to make a shua. The shua he's mechuyev to make is the one that aid contradicts him on, that he didn't take it, but he can't make that because he yeah. And the din is that anyone who's mechuyev shua and is not able to make a shua, mishalem, he has to pay. Okay, he has to pay. Now, therefore, Rabbi Abba paskend that he has to pay. Now, can anyone work out the link between that and our case? Because again, we try to say Haynu Naskad Rabbi Abba, right? Sover Rabbanon Kami to Rabbi Abba. Sorry, Kami to Rabbi. The Rabbanon thought in front of Rabbi that the way to solve our scenario. Again, our case was where you had one aid supporting your chazaka, but only one aid supporting your chazaka, right? And we tried to say that the way to solve our scenario, what to do here, whether you can keep the land or not, is to compare it to the case of Naschad Rabbi Abba. You understand?
Does the aid
Make it.
does the admission of the person contradict the aid in order to be able to prevent him from making a shua in the first place?
Johnny, maybe you should mute yourself.
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, don't worry. Go on, what did you say about me?
In the first case,
Yeah.
the only way an aid echad is mechayev person to make a shua only if there's a direct contradiction.
Right.
Is there a contradiction here that would be mechayev him to make a shua?
Well, so the answer is effectively, this is effectively you're on the right track in the sense that here you have one aid supporting you, right? You have one aid supporting you, and you should say like this. Okay, fine. So that aid is mechayev me a shvur. What shvur would it be mechayev me? What aid? Yeah.
So you is the
person who's trying to prove chazaka, right? Okay. So in other words.
No, but it needs to be on the other side.
So that's the problem. That's the problem. You're already going to get to the problem. It's being on the other side. But here the Gemora is assuming that you can use the same logic even if the aid is on the other side. Okay, and therefore effectively we can work it through the same way even though it's on the same side. That's the direction the Gemara is going to go. Right. Let's see the Rashbam, and the Rashbam will make this all very clear. So the Rashbam is at the bottom 3 lines of the Omid, previous Omid. Hainu naschad Rabbi Abba. Din zeh domer la'osu din naschad Rabbi Abba. It's the same. It's comparable to the din of the naschad Rabbi Abba. V'lo lilmod mit Rabbi Abba hayu tzrichim. They didn't need to learn from Rabbi Abba. The mills pshitei sheshalem akarka. It's obvious that he has to pay back the land. Acharei she'eino shnei edim. He doesn't have 2 edim. So obviously he's got to pay for the land. So the whole thing doesn't really start. I don't have 2 edim supporting my claim. The dumya ba'alma medamino noso. It's just a comparison. Very interesting thing. You understand? First thing the Rashbam says is, really, we didn't need to learn from Rabbi Abba because it's obvious. It's obvious you have to give back the land. Right? Okay, it's just a comparison. Just comparing one to the other. Inami alternatively, says the Rashbam, you know why we wanted to compare this din to the din of Naschot Rabbi Abba? So that he has to pay back the fruit with the land. Because it's like he's got edim that he consumed the fruit. To below edim, without edim, lo mahadri peiros. You would never have to give back the fruit. Kedelael. The Rav Nachman, as we said before, in the din of Rav Nachman, just the land alone. If you remember the previous sugya that we learned, we said that without edus that you'd originally consumed the land, right? You won't have to give back the fruit. Rav Nachman, this was the previous Gemora, where he said, and therefore, we said he has to give back the land and the fruit, all right? But if it was the case that he made a tine and said, Leperos, you're out, he'd only go back for he'd only gone down for Peros, right? Then I think the Rashbam, if it was only, this was the previous Rashbam, that long Rashbam we saw last time. If there was no aid in that he consumed the fruit, it was only through his own admission, and he says, I bought it from you, okay? Then there's no raya, there's no proof through the shtar, and he said the land has to go back because he hasn't got chazaka, right? He makes a shvur, so it's Hesses, a shvur drabanon on the Peros, and he's believed. Miga, he could have said, I never ate the fruit, I only ate a little bit, enough for chazaka. Therefore, he's believed to say, I ate a lot of fruit, right? And essentially the point is that even if you have to give back land, this is what we established last year. Even if you have to give back land, you don't necessarily have to give back the parents. Only if there's edus that you ate the parents, right? That's what we said. So here the Rashbam is saying like this. You know why we need to compare this case, the case of Naschot Rabbi Abba, even though it's obvious that you have to give back the land, but this din of comparing it to Naschot Rabbi Abba is going to be mechayev him to give back the fruit as well, because it is like there is edus that he consumed the fruit. As we'll see, his inability to make a shvua is going to make him have to pay back the fruit as well as the land. That's why we're comparing it to Naschot Rabbi Abba, to get to a situation of fruit, to prove that in this case, he actually has to return the fruit as well, the peiros as well. So all this Rashbam is trying to do is simply trying to explain to us why it is that the Gemora actually needs to make a comparison to the case of Rabbi Abba at all. Why is it relevant? First answer to Rashbam is, it's not really. If you look at the land alone, well, you don't need to come on to the case of Rabbi Abba, this Naschot Rabbi Abba, you just say, yeah, you've got to give the land back because you don't have chazaka. You don't have Eidos. You don't have two Eidim, right? So obviously you've got to give the land. Then the Rashbam says, you know what? It could be that the reason why the Gemara is comparing it is because of the Peiros. Because from proving, as we're going to see, the proof from the case of Rabbi Abba, yeah, we're going to prove that you've actually got to even pay back the fruit, even though there's no proof that you ate the fruit. But because of this 1/8 business where you can't make a shvur that if you have to pay back, you're going to have to pay back the fruit as well.
What would be the fruit in that particular case?
The consumption of the land, the use of the land, the crops that you grow. No, not the Nasra case, our case, the case of the land.
Right.
The case of the land, where you work the land for 3 years. You work the land for 3 years. You've admitted that you worked the land for 3 years. There's 1/8 that you worked the land for 3 years. Because you admit to what the aid said, therefore you can't therefore make a shvur to contradict the aid. So you have to pay.
Fine.
What are you going to pay? Give back the land and the 3 years of fruit that you consume whilst you were working the land, which you did do because you were trying to prove chazaka. that clearly happened. That's what we mean by fruit. We mean whatever you consumed whilst working the land.
So he gives back the fruit if he's found to be lying.
Not only if he's found to be lying, but if he only has 1/8.
Ah,
If it's giving 1/8 cost of more.
because 1/8
1/8 cost.
Yes.
proves that
And-
he-
Yeah. And you're already going in the direction of how the Gemara is going to separate the cases of Naschot Rabbi Abba and our case, because of the fact that they are quite different. Because in the case of the Naschot Rabbi Abba, the aid is coming to destroy you, right? The other guy is bringing the aid to disprove you. Whereas in our case, the aid is helping me. It hasn't gone far enough, but he's definitely helping me. He's pushed me along the road.
How's it disproving to the land?
Because in the case of no, it's not. The land is supporting it. Because the aid comes along and says, yes, this guy was in the land for 3 years. It's just there's only one of him. There's only 1/8.
Ah.
Whereas in the case of the nascha,
Right.
the metal ingot,
Yeah.
the aid is directly contradicting.
Saying what?
Well, the aid is brought by the other guy, or whatever. The aid comes along and says, this guy snatched the land, snatched the piece of metal, and I'm saying, yes, it's true, but it was mine. So it's the aid is opposing. Okay, we'll see the Rashbam. This is as I said, this is in a very involved sugya. Let's to the top of the next comment. How shall the Dayanim judge this case? If there were 2 Eidim that he snatched it, we make him pay. No one is believed to snatch something from someone else. Simple halacha, yeah? You can't take something from someone else and then say it was mine. Right? Doesn't work. Unless I have Eidim, that's mine. To Hamid Maman al Chaskoso, we assume money is go after the chazaka. Where's the chazaka with you? Jeremy has a bottle of Lucozade there. If I come along and I take that bottle and I say it's mine, thank you very much. Based on what Paskin, it's Jeremy's. Why? Because that's the chazaka. He bought it. Everyone saw that he walked in with it, so it was his. You understand? It's not. I can't come along and say it's mine unless I've got Eidim. That's called Hamid Moment al Chaskoso. You have the chazaka, okay? If Jeremy comes along and takes my siddur, it's the opposite because it's in my chazaka, right? That's how it is. Okay? It doesn't help Jeremy to say, it's mine. I'm holding it. Right? It doesn't help, right? Because the chazaka is with me. Yes. Now, and this person who is muchsuk in it, no one else can take it away without proof from him. And someone who snatches it from him is a complete gazlan, So, if there were 2 Eidim that he had taken it, then it's obvious he'd have to pay back, right? Unless he has Eidim, that's his. Because he's the muchsuk, the other guy's the muchsuk, and someone who snatches it is a gazlan. So now Rashbam goes to the other extreme. Let's say there was no Eidim at all that he took it. Okay? So then we would also be able to solve the case very simply. If there was no Eidim, and the guy says, okay, there was no Eidim that he took it, and he says, he'd be believed to say, yes, I took it, but it was mine. Why? Migo, do you have a boy, have a Omar? Migo, he could have said, I never took it. Because we see that he's holding the money. We see he's holding it. Okay? In other words, like this. Let's say, you understand what I'm saying? He's going from one extreme to the other. The first case is obvious, right? The case of the Lucozade. Yes? Jeremy, everyone knows it's his bottle. Everyone saw it. It's his 100%, no question. If I take it, unless I've got Adus, we say you're a gaz, I'm a gaz, right? Let's say I'm holding the bottle of Lucozade and no one saw Jeremy walk in with it. It's on my table. It's here. It's right here. I'm looking at it now. Okay. And no one said anything. No one saw it come in. No one said anything. Excuse me. Okay. And there's no Adam that I took it at all. Okay. And Jeremy comes along and says, that's mine. And I say, yes, it's true. It was you had it in your possession, but I took it because it was mine. I went to the shop this afternoon and bought it. So in Chotvi, I did take it. I did take it from you, right? But it's mine. So I'm believed. Migo, I could have said I never took it. And had I said I never taken it, no one would have been able to do anything with me. Because it's it's mine. There's no proof that I took it. You understand? That's a basic migo. So therefore that would also be obvious. So both those cases are obvious. The first case, way round, if there are two Adim, it's obvious I'm a Gazlan. The second case where there are no Adim at all, it's obviously mine. There's nothing to talk about, right? Because of the migo. Inami, the third case, even in a scenario where there will be one aid that he snatched it, okay, if the other guy disproved him and said, I did not snatch it, he would be able to make a shvua to disprove the aid. Because one aid can make a person make a shvua. And had I fundamentally disagreed with the aid said you took it, and I say I didn't. So fine, we'll make you make a shvua, you make a shvua, and then it's yours. Shvua min haTorah. It's not shvua d'Rabbanan, shvua min haTorah. Eidechad makes you make a shvua min haTorah, right? This is the din. Therefore, says Rashbam, these three alternative scenarios, din poshut. It would be obvious what the halach was. Over here, there's one aid that he grabbed it, and he doesn't disprove that aid. He agrees, he admits that he took it, and he took it himself. He took his own property. How a judge is supposed to judge this case? This stuff. You understand? The Rashbam spelled past the three all cases where there would be no problem. We'd be able to give a psak. Okay, three cases. But the problem is here we have one aid, and I can't make the shvua. And he explains it. Lishalim, make him pay. He agreed that he snatched it. A snatcher can't say it's mine. I took my own property to him in Mammon al-Cheskosai. The money should go after the chazaka, so let's make him pay back. You can't. You don't have two Eidim to Chotaf that he took it. And since Migoi, because he could have said, I didn't take it. He's also believed to say that it's mine. The Migoi exists because there's only one Eid. Because there's only one Eid, I've got a Migoi. So the Gemora goes to the other extreme. If you've got a Migoi, lift exempt him. Got a great Migoi. Mishum Milishalim from paying Mishum High Migoi. Mishum High Migoi, because this Migoi. So let's exempt him. You've got a great Migoi. Migoi, you could have said you never took it. Believe him when he says, I took it, it's mine. No, you can't, says the Gemara. Says Rashbam, Ikochad Sado. There's one aid. And had he actually said that, had he actually said, I did not take it, have a boy ishtabui, he'd have to make an oath, to contradict the witness. So that migoi means that migoi doesn't work. You can't say we're going to exempt him because he's got a migoi. You can say I never took it, but he couldn't say that if he was lying because he would have to make a shvua, right?
And you can't make a shvua.
No, we'll get to that in a second. Here we're not yet at that stage. So again, we're going through the options. Yeah, that's the next stage. The first stage is make him pay back. No, you can't make him pay back because there's two items. So why should he have to pay back? On the contrary, he's got a migoi. Migoi could have said I never took it. So then the Gemara says, now, hold on a second, that migoi is no good. Because what migoi does is it gives us a reason to believe him. If you were lying, you would have said a fantastic lie. What lie would you have said? A much more believable lie, a much better lie, which is you never took it. You never took it, right? Well, why would you say I took it, but it's mine? Why put yourself in a compromised position if you were lying anyway? You might as well say I never took it. It's always been mine. That bottle's always been mine. Never sold it. What are you talking about? Right? It's always been mine. So the answer is, so the Gemara says, but that doesn't work here That doesn't work here. You can't exempt him on the basis of that migoy, because that migoy, he wouldn't be able to say. He wouldn't be able to say the other side of the migoy. Since I could have said I never took it. What do you mean? If you said you never took it, you would have to make a shua, because the aid contradicts that. So you wouldn't do that. Martin, you don't look confused. You okay with it? Okay, right. So therefore, the only possible option is lishtaba. That's the next Rashbam. Let him make a shua. Lishtaba is a shua, shua aid machayvo. Let him make the shua that the aid is obligating him to make. That as well, ain't a yochel. He can't make that shua. Because he admits that he snatched it. The only shua the aid is machayv him to make is that he did not take it. To contradict the aid, the hachi mashma kro. That's what the pasuk means in Dvorim. The pasuk says, this is Jeremy, this is the pasuk. You like psukim. An aid echad is not allowed to go up against the person, says the Torah. We're going to any ovon or chatos. Very good. Your bar mitzvah parsha? The saleh moment shu koifer, which means to make him pay money that he's denied. Eid echad, you want to get an eid echad involved to make him pay? Forget it. It's not happening. The Torah says. He cannot get up. The aid can't rise up to make him pay money that he denies, and the aid is mechayev. Aid is not going to work. But he can arise lishvua, to make him make a shvua aid to contradict the aid that he didn't snatch this money, right? So that's what an aid can do. The gabi hach shvua. But in this case, concerning that shvua, this particular shvua, posel who he is disqualified, kegazlan eitzel kol shvuas, in the same manner that a gazlan is disqualified for all shvuas. Just like a gazlan is posel for all shvuas because he's a gazlan, this chap is posel for this particular shvua. You can't suggest that he snatched his own property. That's not the shvua that he is obligated to make. That's not the shvua that the aid imposes, that it's yours. And to exempt him completely is also impossible. Because the migui itself is weakened, as we said, by the presence of the aid. The presence of the aid weakens the power of the migo, as we explained before. Because there's one aid, we can't say migo, you could have said contradicted the aid, because that would make you make a shvua, so you wouldn't do that. So therefore the migo is fundamentally weakened. The only option is to make a shvua, but you can't make the shvua because you are posel for this shvua in the same manner. That's what the most comparison to a gazlan is. Gazlan is posel for all shvuas. You are posel for this one. Why? Because clearly you cannot make a shvua that is the opposite of what you said. You said you took it. You can't make a shvua I didn't, right? So obviously that means you're posel for that shvua. Are you going to suggest that you can make a different shvua? That is what you said, that you took your own property. That does not work because that is not a shvua that the aid is mechayev. The aid is very specific. Aid is only mechayev a shvua to contradict him, what he says. Yeah?
It's not contradiction.
Yeah. 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 That's yeah. Yeah, okay. So, 1 second. Pardon? Yeah, that's exactly the point. That's why it's stuck. Can't do anything. Can't make a shvua. So you can't make a shvua, but he also can't go off scot-free because he hasn't got a migo. Because the migo is conflicts the aid. It's conflicted by the aid. Exactly. It's catch-22 from every perspective. Exactly. Second, yeah. Yeah, okay. So that's what he says. Now, Rabbi Abba says, let's carry on. Amalei Rabbi Abba, next Rashbam. Havale hai choytei v'chulu. This, so Rabbi Abba's psak in the case of the Nasra was, any case where you can't make a shvua, you have to pay. You're right. Catch 22. Can't do anything. So the din is, if you are mechuyev shvua, and the aid is mechayev your shvua here, The aid is mechayiv shvua that you didn't take it. You can't make that shvua. So what do you have to do? To pay. So therefore, Rabbi Abba said, give back the naskah. Okay? Now, Rashbam doesn't say anything on Rabbi Abba because it's very straightforward. Rabbi Abba just says that's the din. The din is you can't make a shvua, you got to pay. Okay? Right? But now the Rashbam explains.
That's the effect. Hang on, is it model? No, is it click-throw or is it
No,
a
no,
different form of-
no, he pays back money. He pays back the income that you took.
But I'm saying if you have 2 aid in, you pay back.
No, only give.
Negative.
No.
So, but
Here, you just have to give back the thing that you stole.
that's it.
The cousin, yeah.
You can't pay money for it.
Hmm.
You have to go back.
You give it back.
What's this guy's?
I mean, unless it doesn't exist, in which case you've got to pay.
What's this guy's course of action in the sense that he says this bottle was mine,
Yeah.
and I can't take it because I'm Gaza, and I can't make a thing.
No, because you've got an aid against you, you need to make a shvua. You need to make a shvua that you didn't steal it, that you didn't take
No,
it. But he can't make that, so you've got to pay.
I'm saying, in the case of where he says this bottle of whiskey is mine,
Yeah.
and I can't take it because I take it that I'm Gaza. In which case I won't be able. In which case I have to be back. What is?
Well, what do you mean?
If he wants to shoot that.
Are you saying the bottle of whiskey is yours?
If I'm saying the bottle of whiskey is mine,
And I say it's mine?
then fine.
Well, do we know anything about this whiskey beforehand?
It's a case of. I think you're saying it's a case of basement. That's it.
No. But if I based in have no knowledge external, there is no aid as to who used to own the whiskey.
Right.
Then you keep it. That's a normal din.
That's the normal
Yeah.
basis.
No, normally, if I come along, at any case where I come along with something in my hand, metaltalin, that's mine, and there's no reason to think that it's not mine, then if you try and claim it as yours, we say, all right, got to prove it. Yeah. Now, the Hochinami says it was from Gavna. You can say the same thing in our scenario. When there are 2 Eidim, you with me? Yeah, that he used it for 3 years. If there were 2 Eidim for 3 years, then he gets to keep it. Now, Shram's going to go through all 3 scenarios again, right? Exactly the same parallel, right? If he had 2 Eidim that he used the land for 3 years, he's home and dry. He gets to keep the land, right? If there isn't 2 Eidim that he used it for 3 years, take it away from him. Give it back to the owner, right? So those 2 cases are obvious. We've learned that the whole parak. But if there's only 1 aid that he ate it for 3 years, lishtaba, he has to make an oath. The aid echod lishvua kom, because an aid echod makes you make a shvua. Afilu lo have a karka, mashpinu le amay da asit sada, right? Even if there wasn't karka, says the Gemora, though, right? So it was make a shvua. No, afilu lo have a karka, even if there wasn't land involved, even if it wasn't karka, right? That means to say like this: you can't make a shvua on karka. Ein nishpon ala karkos. One of the dinim of shvua says. Rashbam here is still slip this in without even explaining what the problem is, right? He says, "Afilu lo have a karka, even if it wasn't land." You can't make a shvua on land. Ein nishpon ala karkos. It's a din. There's no shvuas on land. You don't make a shvua that land is yours. Okay. So the fact that there's an aid saying, again, even though the aid is supporting you, we're going to come back to that in a second. But aid echod, what does the aid echod say? The aid echod says you were there for 3 years. We're going to suggest that that's not good enough, but it's enough to make you make a shvua. What shvua are you going to make? Ostensibly, the shvua you would make is that it's mine. That's the shvua you'd make, right? Says the Rashbam, afilu lo have a karka, even if it wasn't land. Let's say it's just talking about the peiros, like Rashbam said the previous Omid, loy mashbinonle. We would not make him make that shvua al mai da asid sada, on the matter that the aid testified about, because he's not denying what the aid said. He's agreeing to the aid that he ate the fruit. He's on the same page. All he's doing is v'toyin. He's just claiming in ochli, yes, I ate the fruit, but it was mine. So the parallel that Rabbi Abba, the Gemora suggests, the Rabban in front of Abai tried to suggest to the case of Naschad Rabbi Abba, is just like Rabbi Abba's psak with the Naschad was, where you cannot make a shvua, you have to pay. Why can you not make a shvua in the case of the Naschad? Because you were agreeing to the aid. You were saying, yes, I did take it, but it was mine. So they wanted to suggest that's how we resolve the case here as well. Why? Because you've got 1 aid, don't have 2 aidim, don't have no aidim, you've got 1 aid. One aid makes you make a shvua. But I can't make a shvua. Obviously, I can't make a shvua. Number one, it's land. Even if it wasn't land, so we're just talking about the fruit, for example, I still can't make a shvua because the shvua always has to be the contradiction in the aid. The aid says you didn't do something, and I say I do, so therefore I've got to. Here, me and the aid are together. We're in cahoots. We're both agreeing that the land, we're trying to build up chazakah on this land. So the only shvua I could try and make would be that it's, well, the shvua that I'm telling the truth, that's mine, right? But that's not a shvua that you're allowed to make. And therefore, what's the din? Yeah, you have to pay. Because that's what the Rabbanon thought to say. The Gemara, Abaye, let's just see Abaye's response. Omale Abaye said back to him, Mi domi. It's incomparable. It's not comparable. Hossam Sada, this is your question that you all asked. Hossam Sada, lo'irui ka'asim. There, the witness is coming to do him a disservice. He's coming to go against him, right? When another aid would come along, that would do a knockout blow, and we take away the naschal from him. Over here, here, the aid in our case of the land is coming to help Ruvain. If another aid would come along, we'd give it to him. So therefore, Abai said back to these Rabbanon, they're not comparable cases at all. Look at the Rashbam. It's not comparable to Rabbi Abba. Hossam over there, but Rabbi Abba, Havochad Sada, the one aid is coming to damage the snatcher. He's testifying that he snatched it, and therefore that destroys the migoy, that ruins the migoy which the chotif would have had. Migoy could have said, I didn't take it. And that obligates him to make a shvua. And therefore, because he can't make a shvua, he has to pay. Because if another aid would come along and testify the same way as the first aid, that they saw him snatch, we take it away from him straight away. And the shvua wouldn't help even if he could make an oath, right? There, the aidus is stacking up against the snatcher, right? That's what's happening there. And the proof is that the aidus does go quite far to damage his case. It prevents the migo. That's what it does, right? And if another aid would come along, we'd immediately take it away from the guy. Yeah. Here, one last Rashbam. Hoch over here, din karka zeh, in the din of this karka, who sada, this aid, l'siyui le ka'osi. It's coming to support him. He's testifying that he was machzik for 3 years, and it was meriting it. It should be his. Because so if there was another aid with this one, we would give it to the machzik. How can you suggest because of this aid, through this aid, you want to say he'd have to make a shua, because he can't make an oath because he's agreeing with the aid, he has to pay. Well, how can you say that? This aid is not coming to hurt him. He's not coming to damage his claim. Nevertheless, he loses the land because he doesn't have any chazaka. But to suggest that this has anything at all to do with the case of Nascha to Rabbi Abba, says Abai, is preposterous. It doesn't make any sense. It's nothing to do with the case of Rabbi Abba. Because the aid is on my side.
This makes quite a pinpoint.
Yeah, it's on.
Say the shvur that comes has to contradict it.
Not the shvur, the aid. The aid, the question, the whole concept of an aid echod being mechayev shvur, upon which Rabbi Abba's psak was based, right? Rabbi Abba's psak, if you're mechayev shvur and you can't make that shvur because of a technical reason, you have to pay. That was all based on the aid like coming opposing you. Like you have an aid here, and the aid says, I'm testifying that you took this and you're wrong and you're a bad person, right? But I'm only 1/8. So all I can do is make a shvur. And then we can go into the whole thing about, well, you should make a shvur, but you can't, then you've got to pay. But in our case, it's not like that at all. There is one aid, and that aid is supporting me. And if another aid would come along, it would help me. So you can't apply to that the reasoning of because you can't make a shvur, this aid is never mechayev me a shvua, would never be mechayev me a shvua. He's on my side. He's on my team. Okay, he's not coming to damage me. Now it's true that the one aid is not enough to give me the land because he's only one aid. So I'm going to lose the land, right? But what Abai does, if the Gemora ended there, it would be straightforward. But what the Gemora does, obviously, we have time for now. It's an incredibly long Rosh Hashanah, which goes almost halfway down the next Omer. Is basically Abai says, Idamya, Hod Rabbi Abba, if Rabbi Abba's case, Elo Idamya, Hod Rabbi Abba, if Rabbi Abba, the case of the Nascha, is comparable to anything, the case of the Nascha will be comparable to the case of L'chad Sada, where there's one aid, or a Tarte Shani, where it was only an aid proving 2 years, or a Peri, and extracting the fruit. And we're not going to be able to deal with that now. But basically, what Abai does, is Abai says, if you want to bring a case that is comparable to the Nascha Rabbi Abba case, a case of land, that's comparable to the Mominus or the Metaltalin case of the metal bar of Rabbi Abba, you're going to have to construct a new case, and that's what Abai does. And that's what we will see with the next shir, Mitzvah Hashem.
The problem with this is that ultimately the basis upon which he was working from was that he took it. And that even if you say that the aid comes along to support him and not to contradict him, it doesn't matter.
He did. What did he take? He didn't take anything. He's just using the land. Oh, the bar. Yeah.
It doesn't help.
The aid was contradicting him in that case.
He was
Contradicting him. The case of no. That's the other way around. Cross purposes. The Nascha to be out of that aid is contradicting him. Aid comes against him in the Nascha case. Look again. It's the opposite. The land is supporting him. The Nascha is contradicting. Yeah. Right. So you take a look at opposites. You've got 3 weeks for Chazorah. It's fine. But
it's not direct contradiction.
Yeah.
I mean, they're on opposing sides.
Yeah. Look, I know what you're confused about because we're both saying that I took it. We're both saying that I took it, right? But the aid is saying you stole it. You took it and this is mine. Exactly. Or is this is Reuven's that you took? And I'm saying I took it because it's mine.
That's the point. They're agreeing.
No, they're agreeing. Yeah, but they're opposing. Yeah, they're agreeing. They're opposing. Yeah, I just think this is a classic sugya. This again. Yeah, that's the contradiction. That's the contradiction here. So Mitzvah Hashem, next year will be on the 8th of January. Basra Hashem. So no share next 2 weeks on the bank holidays, people away, etc. So therefore, Mitzvah Hashem, we will resume then. Okay. All right.
Good, thank you. Good.
Pleasure. Enjoy your time.
Thank you.
You can't completely